So just in terms of the online platform is supported by an offline programme of workshops with artists. These are just a couple of examples to give you an idea of the sort of thing that we're doing. The top one here was a project called Take Yourself, working with an artist, Luca Damiani, and he was looking at how we use the collection at Tate Britain to build composite portraits using Photoshop and using elements from all the works that were out of copyright in order to present a portrait of yourself that defined not just what you looked like, but who you were. And then the second project beneath is a project with an artist, Michelle Williams-Gamaker, that we did in collaboration with Louisiana Museum of Modern Art in Denmark, where she was working with the young people to reenact sculptures that they might identify with. So what they were thinking about doing was physically merging with an object. So here they're merging with the Henry Moore. And they did a small film and choreography about that. Finally, this was a project that we've just done recently out in the Louisiana Museum of Modern Art in Denmark, where the young people work with an artist called Albert Petroni to explore the principles of democracy. So they were drawing inspiration from the current show there, which is Arab Contemporary. And we were working with students there who actually didn't study art, they studied social sciences, because art's no longer in the curriculum in Denmark. So we were looking at how can we work with museums and with collections, with countries where art is no longer present in the curriculum. And so we were looking at wider areas of interest. And what the young people did here was to develop a game where they built a micro-society that allowed them to explore the challenges of democracy. And the group used art as a way to deepen their understanding of democratic spaces and their knowledge of what's happening in the Arab world right now.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. That last slide. Okay. You want me to do it or not?
No, go ahead. Yeah. Last slide. Yeah.
Last slide. Okay. So where we are now is that we're building community, and we'd really like as many interested artists, galleries, young people, teachers to join us. What we're doing at the moment is developing an interactive map online, so that you can see at a glance where everybody is in the world and what they're doing, whether they're an artist, whether they're a teacher, whether they're a gallery or a school. And that will also have heat-centered sensors so that you can see if somebody's feeling lonely and wants to connect, or if somebody would like to stay on their own a little bit more. We kind of hope that people that are joining are wanting to collaborate, and it will be a source that will help physical collaborations as well as virtual collaborations, and we hope you'll join us. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for those presentations. There's so much to grapple with there, and lots huge kind of spectrum of perspectives. And
can I just ask, Annie, in relation to your online platform, is it completely open in terms of content, or is there a filtering process because it's having undertaken?
Okay, yes, that's a good question. It is, I mean, when somebody signs up, then that's, we have to approve the people that sign up. So it's moderated at that stage. If there was content that was racist or inflammatory or difficult in some way, then we would be able to take that down. But it is essentially open, so people can put up. It's post-moderated, rather than moderated before it goes up. So it's relatively open, as open as we can be.
I think it's a really interesting platform. It's not one I've come across before, but I think it's really interesting because you're pitching it as a platform. So it's not that like this is take control, it's like this is a platform to meet and connect. And in a sense it's a bit like the mobile online courses, which are relatively small, and you have a teacher and you pay like $250 to do it, but they now have like super fans and super teachers, and like the teachers get fan mail. Apparently it's like when George Bush learned to paint. Yeah, really randomly. But they've found that like, so they set up this community and they have these classes and they sell out like months in advance, but they've now found that like the groups themselves go and set up their own Facebook pages.
Yeah.
So it's very much a platform, so the moderation, they moderate this little section, and people can kind of go and live offline separately, meet up. And that's quite nice, it's quite a different approach, because before I think there has been that kind of pre-moderation approach, and everything's self-contained and there's that fear of control. So I quite like the approach of, we're a platform, go forth and do what you want. You're not our responsibility as soon as you leave our site.
It's interesting to have a conversation about collaboration, because one thing I was thinking about whenever you were talking earlier, Anne, was that, you know, there's a dynamic here between we're artists, organisations, curators, and those are kind of very particular roles and very particular dynamics. But you said something about, you know, how it has to be one person and another person. So it's kind of interesting to think about then that platform, which is obviously encouraging, you know, new collaborations, but it's actually, it's really remote, and there's actually no personal contact there at all.
There is some personal contact in that's what the kind of offline programme does, because we work in different countries as well, so there is some personal contact, but it's with a much smaller amount of people, and it's something to kind of that we look at a lot in terms of how much real contact do you need with a person in order to maintain an online interest. And that's something that we've been sort of grappling with, and how often do you have to meet a particular person to think, will they actually stay online? And we've sort of found if we see a partner about once a year, then that manages to maintain the momentum for what goes on outside. But yes, I mean, there is also this other layer there, people need to initiate themselves.
It was a really interesting point somebody mentioned about building, I think it was a moment you mentioned about building trust being a key part of it, and I was wondering, Anne, yourself, how do you build trust over a kind of virtual mechanism? It seems to be that to get the children to engage fully, they need to fully trust you.
It seems to take 3 weeks. It seems to come really naturally to children to work online and to work virtually. At the beginning, they're a bit distracted by seeing themselves in the little box where they see themselves on the screen, and it takes me a while to stop them from using it themselves a bit. But after that, to be honest, the virtual part of it is relevant almost. As in, I can see that there's differences that it makes, but they don't seem to notice. They just take to it. Like the last sessions I was in, I think it was a good 10 or 12 weeks. I didn't meet them until the last week, like in the flesh. And they were just completely as if you'd known them for years, It was just, in fact, maybe more than if you'd been dealing with them as a group, where you were constantly maybe trying to physically stop one person from standing beside you. The virtual platform allows you to really have that wee bit of distance, but at the same time give everybody a chance to talk to you.
Because I guess the difficulty with collaborative projects is that they're so resource heavy, and to have, even with you, Marisa, it just wasn't possible. It would have been lovely to extend that period where you were actually working in the schools. So, maybe you could talk a little bit about how you
because we wanted it to be a long process, but we knew it wasn't possible to sustain the intense contact for various reasons, so that's why I thought having a kind of a slow online introduction would be a good way to get to know them, and also sort of postal, and sending images and photocopies, and they were writing letters, and so that was a really nice way. So when I actually went into the classroom, I felt the same thing, that they knew something about me and I knew something about them, and we kept it quite personal. So I would send them photographs of I wouldn't send my work, I would send pictures of my cat and my baby in my house, and what I'd just eaten and things like that, and write them questions about what have you just been doing, and then they would write me letters, and I sort of respond to the images, but with an image and a question. So that was really nice, and that was a good way to build it up over that time. And then I did short visits where I started to introduce activities that the teacher would then continue over that time, and they would send me more images, and then we kind of prepped for the intense visits, and that happened over 2 weeks, and then I came back again and shared the work with them at the end, and that was really important, to go back and get them to have a look at the work and see, as I was saying, what they hadn't seen, what they expected, and how they felt about the process. And I think they didn't realise we were finishing, actually. Some of the teachers told me they thought that I was going to keep coming back. So that was a bit of a, they were kind of waiting. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point, actually, that idea of finishing a project when you are collaborating and working quite often, quite intensively with people, there's a relationship has been established over time, slow kind of process, and then for you as an artist, you have to kind of at some point sort of, to some extent, disengage and move on to the next project.
I think they have.
Do you have a way that you do that?
Well, we've explained it throughout. I'm always very clear about how long the project's going to take and what we're going to be doing. I try and talk to them about that frequently so that they understand, especially when they're younger.
Yeah.
Like 8 to 10, weren't they, between the classes. I think it's just being really open with them. But actually, we did talk to them about it quite a lot. And I think they just, I don't know if they hadn't really listened or they hadn't kind of taken it in, or they'd just been thinking, oh, it's fine, we've been doing this now for ages, we'll just carry on. But also the teachers, the idea was that they would carry on implementing some of the ideas, which I think they have